I'm geologist, built her life in the international gemstone trade, advising collectors and creating deeply personal jewels that are worn, lived in, and passed on. Since founding Cynthia Renée in 1990, she's worked with collectors at all levels, sourcing rare gemstones, guiding them through the intricacies of the market, and transforming exceptional stones into bespoke jewelry that reflects the wearer. Longtime leader in the field, Cynthia serves on the board of directors of the American Gem Trade Association, promoting integrity, ethics, and excellence in the colored gemstone market. Cynthia?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here in my own backyard. Before I start, I want to ask you guys something. Leland Little has told me that you guys are very informed and you're very conversive and you like questions. And as I go along, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask it, okay? Because I bet that there's somebody else here who has the same question, but they don't want to mention it or ask. And for me, you know, like I talk all the time. And so it's really nice to be able to talk to people if you have questions. Does that make sense? Okay, here's your question.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from northern San Diego, but I live in Cary now, though I did spend 12 years in Chapel Hill. Make sense?
What were you doing in Chapel Hill?
I moved to Chapel Hill from San Diego because I had children late in life. And in California, where I lived in this small town in San Diego, kind of close to the border, they don't have very good schools. And if I wanted to go, I could take her to a private school, but it seemed insane to drive 2 hours a day to take a kindergartner to a private school. So I could live anywhere because of what I do. And I chose Chapel Hill because they had a population of people from all over the world. And they're people that seem to value education and curiosity and travel. Oh, you need to help this? And there was an airport close by, low friction. That seems loud. How does it seem to you? It does? I might tremor. Okay, I guess it'll take me a little bit to get used to this and so forth, but here we go. So there's a darkness darker than anything in space, and that is being deep inside the earth in a gem mine. Eyes aren't going to help you there. In fact, there was an area where the miners had wedged down a ledge of rock. I'm going to have to fix this for you. Ledge down a wedge of rock, and what rained down? Not spiders, but salamanders without eyes. They didn't need any eyes there. It's dark, dark, dark. I spent a lot of time there as a student. I was doing a thesis on a gem mine, and it was called the Himalaya mine, which at the time was North America's largest producing gem mine, and it was tourmaline. It had quite a history, and I spent a lot of time underground there, and it really shaped me as a human and shaped my life. What we used to do in these central portions of the rock, that's pretty solid. I brought actually a section of that rock if you guys want to see it afterwards. It's kind of fun to see. But there are areas where the gems form, and it's kind of a slushy, mushy, oozy clay in something called a pocket, which is like a bubble. And it's so dark in there, even with, well, that was a camera light, but the light on your headlamp, that you can't determine if you've found any gems or not. So you take all of it that you get out of these pockets, everything, you put it in a bucket, and then you take it outside and you set it on a big screen and you get a hose and you wash it all off. And that was one of my favorite things. You wash it all off and you pick up the crystal, and you're the first person to ever hold that gemstone to the light. These are dated at 165 million years old. You're the first person to ever hold it to the light, to touch it, to see it. I'm even getting kind of teary as I think about it. It's like a time travel. It meant time for me. And what it did is it took me on a trajectory that I built my life around these wonderful gems, the riddles of the earth, and the colors, and the captivating questions they keep asking. And as Allie so nicely described, you know that my name is Cynthia Marcusson. I started as a gem mine geologist, and I started my company, Cynthia Renée, in 1990. And I work primarily now with people being able to do very customized jewelry for them that tells a piece of their life and their history in a jewel. I'll show you how I do that. And with collectors of colored gemstones, helping them to advance their eye and understand nuance and how that applies to color and colored gemstones. So this is Sri Lanka. And the gemstones in Sri Lanka, they start at the highlands, but mostly they get washed down with streams over time into the lowlands. And in the lowlands, there's a high water table, and that's where the rice paddies also are. So it's not uncommon. Under these thatched roofs, there are pits that go down in the ground, maybe 50, 80 feet, and they dig out what they hope is the gem-laden gravel and soil, see what's in there, take it out, and then they fill them in and move them someplace else. So the rice paddies and gems mining on a smaller scale work together. Now, one day I was out there and we would stop for tea, and as we were having our tea, I saw this fellow, and he had gone and just to a local stream, and he was playing, and he was holding the gems up, the pebbles, to see if he found anything was gemmy. And this is me doing the same thing in Sri Lanka, but not in a river. It was on top of a bank. They wanted to show me the sapphire crystal, and I wanted to see it in natural light. So they said, just get on top of the bank, which is so different than what we would hear. It was just like on top of the bank. But that's a sapphire crystal. Yeah, it's a big one. I didn't buy it. But, but picking up a gem pebble from the river or taking out a gemstone from an underground vein, it's a real excitement. And holding and communicating and wearing such a gem, to me, is close to touching eternity. Now, it's exciting stuff to go out to different mines. I've been to different mines around the world over the course of time. And it's so exciting, and you could get so excited. And people ask me all the time, oh, do you go out there and buy from the miners? Well, no, you have to be very careful. It's exciting, but you never can let down the need for due diligence, because that's where things can be misrepresented. And there's a lot of opportunity in the gem world too for misrepresentation and fraud. So I wouldn't buy directly at a gem mine, maybe unless it's $50 or something like that. But you don't, and you have to always marry that romance with those cold hard facts of due diligence, lest you end up with your butt in a sling, because that is what happens. That was in Bolivia, but jewelry endowment is encoded in our DNA. We have an instinctual reaction to gather jewels as talismanic objects that have meaning and empowerment in them. It's deep in our minds. I think it is a gift from the intelligence and skills and rich emotional life of our earliest ancestors. Our emotional reaction to our senses, the way we feel when we look at the night sky, or feel when we hear a moving piece of music, or the light gleaming from a gemstone, they are going to be with us and our descendants as long as the human race exists. And we'll revisit this star sapphire later. So when you reach for a gem, or one pulls at you across the room, you got to go see it, which I noticed people wearing their jewelry today. In fact, my daughter, Allie was showing her something in one of the cases, and my daughter gasped. You know, it's that kind of reaction because something is so beautiful and so moving to us. But when you feel that pull, you're connecting with your ancestors. And that pull is one of the oldest and deepest things about being a human being. That instinct we have, it didn't stop with just wanting to adorn ourselves. It became something else too. It grew into the unruly passion of collecting. Now, probably a lot of you are here because you collect different things, or at least you're interested in ornamental and decorative arts. So you know what I mean about that. But my theory is this with collecting. Like, you go back to early primitive times, caveman times, and life is pretty uncertain there, isn't it? You're running and dodging predators and trying to find another day's food for yourself. It's pretty scary, but there's security in numbers. You know, a backstock of food, a backstock of rocks to make arrowheads from. And while you're out there, probably fighting for your life at times, you look down and, oh, you pick up a shiny rock, or you notice like the curved edge of a shell, or maybe the tooth from the tiger that tried to kill you. And you take those things and you take them back to your cave. And at night, by the fire, you sit down and you take them from their secret place and you spread them out in front of you and you hold them and look at them. And the more you touch them, the more you look at them, it anchors into you your feeling of connection to them. And they begin to develop these powers of strength, of connection to something else, of love, of feeling safe. They become, that's how talismans developed. And one day you wonder, what if I took these magic objects and I put them on my body when I went out there? Would they give me luck? Would they make me fleet like the tiger and the tiger's tooth? Would they keep me safe? This is how collecting began. And it is really a joyful pursuit. Now, from shiny rocks and tiger's teeth to Victorian curiosity cabinets, you remember those? I love those. They're just so interesting. Looking, yes, you see too, looking at all of the interesting things in there. To the collectors in this room, the impulse is the same. People collect all kinds of things, baseball cards. Now, I'm not a baseball person, but when I was in here a few weeks ago, they had a lot of sports things, decoys. It's amazing all the things people collect. They collect, as I said, the baseball cards, but also like watches, shoes, cars, wine. But of all the things people can collect, nothing, and I mean nothing, holds the natural rarity and beauty of a colored gem. What else carries the history of the world, of our earth in your hand? And it's part of that history is that those moments when there was a meeting of the exact chemistry and temperature and time and pressure, circumstances to be able to let that gem form, and then what all it came through to get up out of the earth and come to you. I think it is an astonishing thing. Watches. They're wonderful, but they're made by a human, albeit a skilled one. A good friend of mine is a Switch watchmaker. I know it takes a lot of skill, but they're made by a human. But a gem in our earth, it was made over the vastness of time. Now, this is blue zircon at top. On the bottom is a garnet called spessartite garnet, which is a real unusual type of garnet, which is like a mandarin, juicy, brilliant orange. There's one in you can see one in a ring that's in one of the cases over there. It's really unusual. So in making those earrings for a client, we were going with fire and ice. And the bottoms can be detached, so she can wear them as drops on other earrings, and then she can wear other drops with the blue zircons. But anyway, blue zircon, oh, my daughter, that's her birthstone. She's wearing a lot of blue zircon. She's loaded with it tonight. But blue zircon, it's the oldest mineral dated on Earth. 4.4 billion, not million, billion years old. That's older than the moon. You know, doesn't that just inspire your imagination? All that it went through, that it came to get you. So natural gems, they aren't produced by batches or by humans. They're just produced by circumstance. And I think that's why we keep, as humans, keep being compelled to them, drawn to them over and over and over millennia. Yes. Zircon is one of those gemstones that they use, a mineral, not in its gem form. They find it in granites and other kind of hard rocks and so forth. And they can date it by using, what carbon? Well, it has to do with radioactive decay. So it's one of the minerals that they would use for that mineral active decay. And from looking at half-lives, they could be able to figure out how old it is now. I used to do it when I was in school, and I forget the whole way that you do it, but it has to do with the half-life of an isotope of zirconium. Yes?
Are all zircons that each color the same age?
No. In fact, these are from Cambodia, blues that you see, or even that's on my daughter, and I don't think so. The way I know that they found the oldest ones way down south, like either in Antarctica or Australia. So they're not all the same old one, but I just think it's amazing that we can even date minerals that are older than the moon here in our world. There's just So much in this world for us, huh? And you can ask me about gems too. Zircons come in different colors and so forth. Yes. The blues are primarily all heat treated. What they do is that they take some that are kind of whitish or more kind of gray or beige type color, and they heat them and it turns it to a permanent color. And they've been doing it at least since Victorian times. You could see them in Victorian jewelry, right? So primarily they are, but there's not a great abundance of them. Like these, they were probably like 10 carats each. I don't know how the photo looks to you guys, but they're super deep, deep, deep blue. They were really like some of the finest zircons that you could see. But I would have a hard time, you know, it would take me a while to find another pair to replace them. How's that? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Before the 1960s, almost all of the blue sapphires in the market were natural color. But as demand began to increase exponentially, as production was decreasing, it became necessary to find ways to take other material and that's naturally grown corundum, the mineral for sapphire ruby. And they discovered some of these older techniques that had been used for many years, but not the majority of what was in the market. Just occasionally, the early miners learned that by heating them with low heat, it would melt the internal inclusions that provided color and intensify the color. But it wasn't being done universally.
Like they were heating sapphire since Marco Polo's time, at least.
So by heating it, and at low heat, it's permanent, and it's not adding or changing anything. It's just basically making nature's impact on it more impactful. And that's when they began to heat them on a routine basis. So it was not until the early 70s that we began to have to check for which ones had been heated and whether they'd been heated by low heat or extremely high heat.
And now there's much more sophisticated methods to look for.
They can actually chip and damage more easily if they've been enhanced by high heat. But most are not.
So this blue star sapphire that I mentioned earlier, it's from Sri Lanka, and it's 500 million years old. And that sits on a woman's finger. And someday it's going to be on her daughter's finger, no doubt. And I'll tell you more about that later. Since Antoinette mentioned heating, do you want me to tell you about star sapphires and why they're so rare? Okay. I didn't know if you want me to get off on a tangent or something. There's a pink star sapphire, or maybe it's a ruby in the showcase there, which is interesting to see too. But with stars, what happens is that it's the mineral, the sapphire mineral, which is called corundum, and then it has another mineral inside of it, natural, which is called rutile, which is titanium oxide, and then it's aluminum oxide for the corundum and so forth. And once in a while, so everything happens where the rutile, which is a very fine textured, almost like a hair mineral, orients itself with the sides of the crystal and can produce a star. But how can I explain this simply? Like they routinely heat blue sapphires now, or all sapphires now. And when they heat them in the rough, they can't tell if it's going to be a star yet or not. That rutile dissolves in such a way that corundum can use the titanium from the rutile, and it helps pump up that blue color, and it dissolves the clumps. Like usually it's not fine textured like this, it's more like clumps of inclusions. It dissolves them. So that's why these stars are becoming more and more rare, because the sapphires are routinely heated when they come out of the ground. Make sense? Okay. Look at the one, like if you look at the one in the showcase, like because they are natural like that, there's a different aesthetic. It's not like they're perfect. It's not like something that was made in a lab. Maybe sometimes one of the leg is not as strong as the other, or a little bit wavy and so forth, but it is a real natural wonder. Otherwise, get tiger's eye. Yeah?
It's the same mineral, but present in other gems that have the star.
Rutile is in other things, but it's not the same. It's not universally in everything. It's what makes the cat's eye, or sometimes I see it in other gems too that adds a really interesting texture to it. Sometimes I think I've even seen it like in rose quartz. They can have star quartz and so on and so forth. Antoinette, do you know if star garnet is from rutile? It would be another inclusion, I think. Star garnet, is that from rutile, the star? She's a good gemologist. But
I'm not sure
yeah.
about whether the star.
And those have 4 legs, right? Not 6. Yeah, they have 4. So do you have a star garnet? Are you wearing it tonight? Oh, too bad. We could have show and tell. Is it from North Carolina? So is mine. What day? 26. So there is garnet, that's in North Carolina, and there's other gemmy things, but they're not usually in very gemmy qualities. But I have seen star garnet from North Carolina. So most of you are probably familiar that De Beers controlled the diamond market, at least for most of the 20th century. They controlled the supply, and then they really stimulated demand with these really great advertisements. A diamond is forever, or a diamond is love, and so on and so forth. But this has fractured in recent years because there's been more supplier countries that don't want to just give it to De Beers to be able to portion it out. So that made them release some of their stronghold. And then with the lab diamonds in the last few years, they really just kind of ruined their market. So now I've heard that they control like 30% of the supply. And the diamond market will recover, you know how it is, like everything has to establish a new equilibrium and so forth, and it will bounce back. But the point is that diamonds were a single market for ages. It was very controlled supply and demand. And with color gemstones, it's the opposite of that. People often wonder how they're priced. So if you guys have questions during that, I could go in deeper. There's a little generality, but there's no De Beers for colored gemstones. And the reason there can't be is because there's too many varieties. There's too many countries to organize. And I'm going to use this one variety of garnet rhodolite as an example. Like, try and imagine if somebody wanted to corner the market on rhodolite to be able to control the supply. It's this beautiful, like rhododendron rosy garnet. This is actually a really nice one, like 20 carats from Sri Lanka. But what they'd have to do if they wanted to is that they would have to, uh-oh, my slide isn't working, is it? Did it go? Okay, there we go. So if they wanted to control this market, they'd have to be able to work with miners across East Africa, Madagascar, Brazil, China, Sri Lanka, a variety of countries. And it's not just one mine in each country. They're mining areas with a bunch of little mines everywhere. And with that, they're all independent. They have different mores. They have different motivations. They have different loyalties. They have different ways to steal, stuff from the mine. And as soon as you had one problem ironed out, can you imagine? Others would pop up. It would be, do you remember the game Whack-A-Mole? It would be like Whack-A-Mole. You'd solve one problem, more moles come up, well, more moles come up. It would be a tremendous amount of work to be able to do that. I think it would be impossible. And for what kind of return? Like rhodolite is probably hundreds of carats, low thousands of carats, in the finer stones, but most of it in the hundreds, and it just makes no sense. Now, yes?
And I assume that the diamonds are much easier to corner simply because the kimberlite types are very geographically localized, so they don't have many different.
Well, they also have diamond sources in Canada, in Russia, Australia.
Yeah, so I think geographically localized in terms of the spread across continents. I mean, like for a given kimberlite type, it's a small area that is usually controlled by one body.
I think it's because, I haven't spent my life in the diamond business, but what I would think, it's because they went into an area where they could control the population for a long time. So that made it very localized. They didn't have to deal with all these different personalities, to say the least, and they could control that. And it's before they were the Russian fields, the Canada field, yeah, I think that's why. So they could develop, a system, an infrastructure. These are all different varieties of garnets. These are some I help one of my collector clients for. So garnet is a really big family with all these different members. And each one of these kinds of garnets would have a different market. So it's wild and woolly in colored gemstones. It's not just one white thing. I think also with diamonds, they're easier chemically, they're carbon and so forth, and, white for the most part, or whitish. And they're easier to judge. They're much easier to understand than all these different colored gemstones and all their hues and secondary hues, tertiary hues, their clarity, what kind of thing is accepted for what locality, countries of origin, perhaps getting a price bump. Yeah, it's okay. Maybe I'm not standing still enough. Is it? Okay, I'm aiming at the laptop. Boop, boop.
The button's definitely responding.
Aha, I did it. It could have been me, operator trouble. So this is colored gemstone market is like an undammed river. It's dynamic. And what you see, the prices are set by how many there are in the world at any moment and how many people want them. And it comes and goes and it moves. There's usually like 20 to 40 varieties that you might see in jewelry, and they each have their own market dynamic. Now, here's what's been happening that affects prices in the last decades or so in the colored gemstone business. It's three things at once. So first, mineral collectors. They become very sophisticated. Over the last 20 years or so, they've worked hard to be able to position collecting minerals as just something for nerdy rock hounds to something for, the greatest titans in the world. But certainly as collecting minerals as rare art forged over eons in the world, and it is. And so they've really built a really strong market. But what has come with that is a lot of the crystals that they might have used for gemstone rough to be able to facet gemstones, well, they're worth more now as a mineral specimen. So that's made less availability of rough, and then it's raised the prices overhaul. So you have, a lower supply, a lower availability of rough for gemstones, and then a higher demand. And what happens is prices raise. Yes. He's a big collector of minerals.
And I'm just really curious to know what's happened with this collection. I heard that his children inherited it. I'm just curious to know how you.
I think I saw, you see that the one on the right, Unearthed Raw Beauty. The woman there, Monica Kitt, she's a friend of mine. And I think that an Arkenstone is the business, or IROX. You can see them on Instagram. And I thought I've seen Halpern pieces offered through there.
I've seen his work personally, and I asked him what he wanted to see happen with these. He said he wanted them to be used for educational purposes. So it's really cool to see that standing up at the same time.
Wait, is one of these a Halpern? Well, that's pretty darn amazing. You better go get that book.
I guess I must.
Yeah. Okay, it's published by the Mineralogical Record, which is a big magazine. It's been for a long time. Yeah. And that crystal on the cover is a kunzite. And kunzite was found also in San Diego, where I grew up and did my geology and so on and so forth. And they named it after George Kunz, who was a Tiffany's gemologist at the turn of the century. And he would be instrumental of going out there trying to get gems for Tiffany's, who's always been pretty adventurous with their jewelry. And so they named it kunzite after him. Around that same time too, there's a woman here who's wearing a beautiful morganite pendant. Where is she? Yeah. So morganite, around the same time, it was named after J.P. Morgan. He was involved with collecting minerals and so forth too. And when he later then donated his whole collection to the American Museum of Natural History, and that's what started their mineral wing. And that was before you got a tax deduction for it and so forth. But secondly, another thing that's happened is that colored gemstones have caught on in the luxury houses. like Dior, Bulgari, Louis Vuitton, Tiffany always has been into them, Cartier and so forth, now even Prada. But they all have jewelry now that's just chock full of gems. And I don't mean the most, common denominator of amethyst or citrine. I mean gems that are from just one locality. They're rare and vivid and so forth. And they put a lot of them in one piece. So in doing that, then they get a lot of media attention for it, not just on their celebrities that they put the jewelry on, but the media too, social media or even print media and so on and so forth. So names like spinel or savarite, Paraíba tourmaline, you see that more around now too, rubellite, things that nobody really, not nobody, but most people in the consuming public hadn't heard of 10 years ago. Well, now they're becoming known by name and they know to ask for them. It's not a scary thing to have a savarite garnet. It's a beautiful thing. And that has created a higher demand for gems that are inherently rare and in limited supply. Let me show you this. That's one piece of jewelry with all those gems in it. Yeah. And thirdly, colored gemstones are now often the gemstone of choice for an engagement ring. The younger generation, they're turning towards non-diamond engagement rings because they're seeking something more individualistic. And we have second and third time marriages. You know what they call those? Because I would have one. Encore marriages. But second and third time marriages, a lot of times that woman is older and more confident and she wants to get what she wants to get, not necessarily what she needs to get. A diamond is forever advertised by De Beers. So there's more and more of those. By the way, that ring, it looked good with the photo, but it's a tanzanite. I would not advise that for an engagement ring. You need it to have some durability, greater durability for every day. She wears that tanzanite successfully, but knows how to care for it. So they call that category without diamonds in bridal, in the jewelry trade, alternative bridal. Alternative bridal. Yeah, they call it alternative bridal. But the thing is that the alternative bridal category, it's no longer the alternative, it's the norm. It's what people are getting. So things are changing in that regard too. These aren't things I made as engagement rings, I made them as rings. But you could see that any of them could work pretty well for an engagement ring, don't you think? Or my friend Michelle, who's here, she has an aquamarine. And she's an encore bride. She has an aquamarine in her engagement ring. There was something else I know I wanted to say on this slide, but I don't remember what it was. But oh well. It's also. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. So when I started in the 90s, I used to give all these trainings and talks to jewelers around the country at the big trade shows and stuff. And they would have me talk about the revolutionary idea of working with the woman self-purchaser, women buying jewelry for themselves, which still even sometimes they're finally getting over the hump. But my clients are primarily women who are making choices for themselves, used to making decisions, and know what they want. So those were every single one of them, yeah, made for a woman. Yeah, everything in the slides will be, except for like the books that I show you and stuff like that. Yeah, all my things. Oh yeah, I'm never retiring. As my dad said, keep moving and they won't plant you. Yes. Okay, the middle top, that's a pink tourmaline with peach topaz from Afghanistan. I used to be able to get those peach topazes. I just made a pendant, big one for somebody that, like in December, but now I have other people wanting them and I can't find any. And then the other one, the top right, oh, that's Montana sapphire. And that's a big one. It's the 4.5 carats, which is a big Montana sapphire. The lower left, oh, I love that one. It's a moonstone. I love moonstone. Yeah. No, they all have different. I'm going to talk about gemstones and pricing a little bit. So since you're asking that, I know that I'll add more to that to be able to answer some of those questions. Does that make sense? I never know how much people want to know about it or if it's scary to them and so forth. And I'll address that, okay? Oh, how they're transformed. Usually what I say, the simple answer is that I've never seen a purple cow, pink flax, or a red sheep, yet purple leather, pink linen, and red wool are considered natural fibers, right? It's like gemstones. Sometimes none of them come out of the earth looking like they do in a piece of jewelry, and sometimes we use enhancements to them to help bring out the best of their beauty. What you always want to be careful with is that you're buying from somebody who's reputable and those enhancements are disclosed, that they're permanent, and if they're not, then you want to know about it and how to handle it. Make sense? And gemstones, like I know that the sapphires have been heated, not in the scale like we were talking about since Marco Polo's time. They used to have chickens like eat pearls because going through their GI system, it would kind of even out their colors and make them whiter. You know, humans are so inventive. Now, I don't think they're doing that to chickens now, or God knows what kind of virus we'd get, huh? But yeah, Chori. Oh God, I love that ring. That's a tourmaline from Afghanistan, and that's one of my rings that I make over and over. It's called the bouquet ring. Oh gosh, I did make that for a man to give to a wife. But if you look in the center where it's cinched, it's kind of like a ribbon, like around the flowers. And then there's a pointer on here. So their last name was an H. Does it look like an H kind of? It's a stylized H. So when I make things, I don't want it to look like you're branded like Louis Vuitton. It has to be subtle and tell the story. So it's an H, and then her initial was C. So it's curved and scooped out there. So how do you value a colored gemstone? Well, there's a lot of nuance, but I'll give you kind of a simple overarching view. It's an interplay of characteristics of factors with beauty, rarity, durability, demand, and color. So just think about those things and how they play out. If a gem is not beautiful, few people are going to want it, right? It's going to be mostly like collectors who want some oddball things that maybe aren't traditionally beautiful. Maybe they're intellectually beautiful. And we're drawn by beauty, but it's the rarity that really gives it the exclusivity. Like beach sand can be really beautiful, but it's not rare, it's everywhere, right? It's something for everybody. And the gem must be durable enough to endure, because if it doesn't endure, it'll be like a Snapchat gem or something. It's gonna fade away. Demand depends on awareness, which is a big deal, because I've been talking about the big houses using colored gemstones and promoting them, and people are becoming aware of them. People don't just come in asking for something if they don't know about it. So a gem could be rare and beautiful and durable, as we'll see later, and it doesn't have the demand to equal those characteristics. And though color preference is personal, it's personal, but what appear to be little subtle differences in color and hue and texture to the layperson can translate to big differences in price. So Allie was showing me, well, I was showing Allie, my daughter's wearing a blue sapphire ring that's mine. And it's a sapphire from Madagascar that I got around 1996 or so, and it's not heated, and it's a deep blue. Everybody would think it's a beautiful stone. Yeah, Tori might like it, but personally, I like sapphires that are just tiny bit lighter, just a little bit. But the market overall goes to probably that color that's darker. But since I know what I like and what it should be priced at, or like I advise clients and so forth too, you just want to pay the right price for the right thing. I don't know if this relates. Somebody taught me this, an estate dealer, a long time ago, like in the early 90s. I had bought some antique jewelry, you know, it's not my medium, but I just liked it. And so he said, oh, well, your eye is good, but you paid too much. But it's better to pay too much for the right thing than get a bargain on something that's not the right thing and has no value over time. So sometimes you do have to reach for something that has everything. And over time, it works out. Now, I'm going to use the gem citrine as an example for the market. I happen to really love citrine. I think it's a great gem. It's interesting when it's well cut, you know, like there's an optical illusion. It's where does the gem end? Where does the yellow gold start? And it's a good wardrobe basis. Like you can wear it like you can yellow jewelry. You could build a jewelry wardrobe on it. It works with a lot of things. It's great. but it is very abundant. And because of that, it's not as expensive as other things. Since you're interested in heating, the reason it's so abundant is because they take way off-color citrine, smoky quartz, off-color amethyst, and they heat it. And they could heat it, to different colors depending on the material in their heating recipe. And they could do that with these quartzes from all over the world. So it's pretty abundant. You could see it. So that keeps the price relatively low. But conversely, like these earrings, it's a cut that I developed called the origami cut. And because it is less expensive, you don't have to be as concerned about losing a lot of money when you're cutting it, because you certainly have to if the carat price is high on some of these other things. But with citrines, I could do beautiful, interesting cuts. Or my friend Michelle is wearing a citrine ring for me, and it's just impeccably cut because I didn't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm losing $1,000 just for cutting it a certain way. So I think it's a good gem because of that. And it's available in larger sizes. It's for everybody. Now compare that with another orangey golden stone. Is completely different. This is called spessartite garnet. And it just comes from one little place like Namibia, sometimes Nigeria, but not much, just one little tiny locality. And it might look like the color is the same, but it's like an electric mandarin, juicy, or the brilliance that comes out of it is pretty tremendous. And it's rare and it's collectible. And you just don't see it much, except there is one. There's a ring. It's really cool. That's in the jewelry counter back there. You should look at it and see. You'll see the difference and how that is different in the light. Now, it gets its color naturally too. It's not one that's enhanced or heated and so forth, which does give it more cachet. It's like a little fireball. Now, it's a low supply just from one small area, and increasing demand as more people are getting to know about it. And it's market, like what's going to happen to it, because it's rare and it's shooting up, and it's one of those few that is non-enhanced. This sapphire, this spessartite here, when did I get this for the client? Like 2004? And it's 22 carats, which is a monster. I was just out in the market looking for spessartites for somebody who wanted an orange. The largest fine one I could find was about 8 carats. One in the case there is probably about that carat. It's really hard to find, really unusual. And we made this ring. Can you see on the left, like the family, I happened to be at their house at the time in San Diego, but they got evacuated from their home because there's widespread fires everywhere. And all their houses all around them burned except for theirs. So we made this ring commemorating. It looks like flames shooting up, and you could see the hot inferno of the spessartite. What their family learned was valuable, what they left behind and what they went with, which was each other. So that's the fireball ring. This is the one that's in the case there. Now, 2 dimensions, it looks flat. You don't think that it looks like electric, juicy mandarin, but it does when you see it. Another yellow gemstone, which is a difference. There on the left is yellow sapphire. I think there are about 3 carats total, maybe 3.5, 4 carats in total. Now, sapphire has that name recognition, right? Y'all know what it is. You might not have seen a yellow sapphire or any of the other colors, but it's not as scary to new people who are getting into it because it has a sapphire name, and it's really pretty tremendous. And it has a big demand in jewelry because it's sapphire, and sapphire is a big seller. It's not blue, but compare it with the yellow stones on the right. Now that's a gem called danburite, and it is much larger, and it is less expensive because who comes into a jewelry store looking for a danburite? You do? Oh, you were just scratching. Yeah, it is a really cool gemstone. Now, what's interesting is that, well, think of sapphire. It has a long fabled history. Danburite is something that's new and unusual and so forth, but it's not just asked for. But interestingly, the danburite and these earrings are owned by the same person. And if you look around today, you'll see her wearing those earrings. The ones on the left. Ruby, I'm delivering this ring to the client tomorrow. I just couldn't wait. But ruby is the highest price per carat colored gemstone. That's the high, you know, all things being equal with qualities and so forth. It's ruby because it has it all. It has the rarity, durability, demand, the full house. It's in crown jewels all over. It's called the king of gems because there's so demand for it. I used to say you could take a ruby anywhere in the world and exchange it for cash because people want it. Now, there's a lot of nuance in them, though. Like a 5-carat ruby is not 5 times more expensive than a 1-carat ruby because 5-carat, it's just much more unusual and the price is magnitudes more. The premier locality for ruby was always considered Burma, the fabled locality where the fine rubies that were coming from. There are other localities and so forth, but Burma was the one that held the special provenance. There's a Burmese ruby here too that is unheat, like 2 carats, is a premier locality. But then around 2010, Mozambique started producing rubies that really rivaled a lot of the Burmese rubies. And how would I say that? When I say that it started producing them and it started creating more interest in the market, like you see more ruby sales at auction now because there's more of them from Mozambique coming up, especially like in some larger sizes. But I don't want you to think they're plentiful. They're still really rare. But because they got more notice and there's more of them and more movement, it creates more interest. And then that starts growing. Okay. And Burma, I don't think much of anything comes out of Burma at the moment, but you could find old stones that are around, and the Mozambiques are more new. Some of you may know the gem spinel, especially if you've been doing this for a while, but it's a great example of a rare gem that really has it all, like beauty, rarity, durability. But for the longest time, its relatively low price was not commensurate with all of its qualities, the beauty, the rarity, and the durability. And there was just one locality, Burma, just like with the ruby, but it was different. And red spinel is a really great example of what can happen when a really great gem that people don't know about, well, some supply starts entering the market. And then it begins to have enough supply to create interest. And then it starts creating a demand. So some of the famous rubies in history are really spinels. Like this is the Black Prince's ruby in the crown jewels of Great Britain. It's really a spinel, not a ruby. When I started in the business, it was a real favorite of us. I started as a gem dealer. Gem dealers because it was so beautiful and so rare, and it's like we could afford to keep it, you know, because it just, people weren't asking for it. But back when I started too, you couldn't give away a peridot. Now people, it's a really acceptable gemstone. But the public had never heard of it, and supply was still really scant, hard to find them, just from a variety of collectors might like it, but the demand of it stayed low. And then around 2007, there was a find of fine red spinel in the Mahenge area of Tanzania, and that changed everything. Suddenly, there was enough supply to be able to reach the market and build awareness. I said these are in the luxury houses, jewelry and engagement. If it's durable enough for an engagement ring, an everyday ring too. I mean, it really started getting much more attention. It's like the market woke up. Oh, people started wanting them and demanding them. And then it's still a relatively low supply. It's not like you can go find a fine one, but there's still an alternative to the Burma that's really beautiful and red. So in 2001, these were all spinels I had from Burma, but the center stone, that triangular stone, it was 5-carat Burmese spinel. And I sold it for $2,000 a carat, which people said, oh my God, that's such a high price, you know, da, 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 da. But it was high price at the time. But 8 years later, I saw the same exact gem for sale at Tucson Gem Show for $13,000 a carat. And today, exceptional spinels sell for multiples of that, multiples. So while the price is climbing and awareness is climbing, it's still, its supply is relatively low, but there's still room, you know, for it to grow and move. But there is more demand, and you can't just go find a fine spinel anybody, but it did enough to be able to create awareness, create more demand, and raise the price, you know, to points where this really rare, phenomenal gemstone really should be. As recognition for colored gemstones increases amongst the consumers, they no longer have that hesitation to buy a Savarite garnet, that green garnet. like they did when it was discovered in the late 60s. Now, Tsavorite is a garnet that is just from a very limited locality, the Kenya-Tanzania borderland area. So like a lot of these gems are, but it's not available readily in large sizes. This is a 10-carat one that I got for a client, but it's just very hard to find. But it's, like I said, the spessartite garnet, you know, it's brilliant. Garnet can be so brilliant, and Tsavorite can be that too, but it's a limited locality and a low supply that will someday play out. Like the discoverer of Tsavorite, the major player, he already has plans for when it does play out. He's turning his mining area into a sanctuary for, I think, elephants or animals out there in East Africa. But it's got increasing name recognition. Tanzanite is also from that same area, you know, that borderland area, and it just comes from there. And you have to think about, there's more Tanzanite than Tsavorite, but still, it's from an area that's just one locality. It's from, you know, there's like political unstable in different parts of these areas and so forth. The one in that pendant is 50 carats. And the woman who wears it's about 5 feet tall, about 100 pounds. But she's got a big personality, you know, and a lot of confidence. And most Tanzanite is heated. And what it does is you can't really test it or get a lab report for unheated so much, because it mimics a natural process like molten bodies underground that emanate heat in that East Africa rift system that sometimes can heat the Tanzanite inside the ground, but mostly it is heated outside the ground to be able to stabilize its color. This one is not heated, that deep blue, and the way that we could tell is because we had the rough to cut, and then you could see different colors from different directions that haven't been changed and the way it feels and so forth. The Tanzanite in the bracelet on the right, that's an unheated one. That was a real rare one, kind of a green-gray. This woman, she's my old geology professor's wife, but she likes a mermaid feeling, a mermaid look. And collectors swoon over demantoid garnet. It's like, oh my God. Primarily the fine ones from Russia. And, you know, I don't really know of any active mining there. There could be, but I don't really know of any. And we don't let Russian imports into the country now. So whatever you find in the country, it's already been there. So it's a real rare one, a one locality gemstone. And one locality gemstones always have their supply in a bit of peril. Well, I said ruby is the highest price per carat gemstone. Blue sapphire is the best-selling gemstone. It's the one where there's more of a market for blue sapphire, probably in dollars in quantity than anything else. You know, it's a gemstone that has a name to it. It has history. It's beautiful. Who doesn't want a Princess Diana even has it? My daughter has it. It's got high name recognition and very historic. So this suite in that necklace, those were not heated. And I had to go to Sri Lanka several times to put them together and so forth. And they have I love that color. It's a little bit of violet, a little bit light and so forth. It's a sweet blue. Oh, and I said before, like, you have to be careful not buy it in mine site and so forth. If you see me there in Sri Lanka, that was, well, I was pregnant, like 2001. So I was there buying sapphires in somebody's office where you can use the tools and the light and control your conditions. That's what you do. You know, at that time, all these guys would be coming in and out of the office, like people from mining, people from, hundreds of people just come in and out, in and out. And I said to my friends at the office, who are all these people? And they said, well, they're just coming by to see. And I said, see what? And they said, well, there's never been a woman here before. And I said, you've never had a woman in your office? Because these guys were pretty progressive. And he said, in the whole building. Yeah, it was about 8 stories. Yeah, so things have come a long ways. Back when it doesn't seem like it's that long ago, 25 years ago, and I was doing it earlier than that. I was a real oddity. And then I was pregnant, you know? Yeah. She lives, well, right now in Florida, but from New Jersey. It was a client of mine that I did a lot helping them build their collection and so forth. That star sapphire, we'll visit it later, but it's the same lady. Yeah, yeah. Now, sapphire is a big gem family. It's not all blue. There's all these other different colors of sapphire too. As we discussed a little bit tonight, sapphire is the mineral corundum, but in gem terms, if it's red, we call it ruby, and if it's any other color, we call it sapphire, and usually with its color description. So you could see, what is it? It's yellow, and there's pinks and magentas. I'm crazy about the purples. Those earrings in the middle, the green ones on the left, those are also from Montana. Somebody had asked about that. They're really unusual green. Pinks. I'm in love with, I would love a pink sapphire for myself. Huh. Yes.
What is your second favorite?
For me, I'm a person who, I have something in my office. It's a quote from Van Gogh that said, the way to know God is to love many things. And I have too many favorites to have a favorite. There's so many different, I'd have to qualify them somehow. But I like spinel a lot. I like the garnets. I'm really keen on purple sapphire right now. I love chrysoberyl, that's this chartreuse type color. I love zircons, anything that plays with the light. Like in my brooch here, it has, oh, for heaven's sakes, not Sphene. Oh, Antoinette from Spain. I know it in the back of my mind. It's another real sphalerite. It's a rare color, sphalerite. So I have it in here because my brother lives in Spain, and so I made a story with my brooch with the whole thing with our family. So I love the light show. Oh, and I love the stars too, right? And cat's eyes and the moonstone. See, I just love to. At a buffet, you take me to a buffet and thank God I'm a picky eater because I would eat everything. You know, I don't have emerald in here. I was just looking at emeralds for somebody like 2 weeks ago. What would you like to know about emerald?
My daughter's birthstone. It's one of my favorites. I struggle with them because there's the natural inclusions that so it's very hard to find ones that don't have that aren't very included. So I was just going to ask you, I thought I would eventually come up on here, so I'm going to ask you about.
So here's a short emerald primer. So there's different localities for them. Primarily, it would be Colombia, Brazil, Zambia. There are other little localities, like I've seen them from Madagascar or from Pakistan too. Sometimes they have no oil in them or no heat. But with the emeralds, particularly those from Colombia, because of the geology of the deposit that they're found in, there's little inclusions in them and little fissures where things got caught up, you know, that tells like the Earth's stories for its liquid past before it crystallized. So way back in time, even the conquistadores was putting inside those inclusions because they can hit the surface, right? If they hit the surface, they'd put an oil in them that behaved in light the same way that emerald did, which made it so you didn't see the inclusions as much. Now, that's a standard way that those come to the market. What I would look at is you want to make sure that the oil that they put in there is not colored, so it's not fraudulently misrepresenting a gemstone. And then I would look at the inclusions and I would accept them, but I would look at their distribution and shape and how they would affect the wearability of the gemstone. Do they create a structural defect that would affect its durability over time? There's one, Allie, is the one in the case Colombian? You don't know. See, this is a good thing. Like people, if you don't know, they should say you don't know. Well, a lot of people just make something up. But it's got a beautiful, like slight bit of blue to the green and richness. I don't know if it's that or Brazil, but it can have like this oomph quality. I was looking at emeralds last week, and one was like $1 million and really clean from another locality and really big. And one was Colombian and say that was 200,000. And I'd like to sell the $1 million one, but I'd like to have the $200,000 one because it had more inclusions, but there's just something about them. It's like, you know, there's an oomph to them, like a hunk of burning love of a gem. With almost all gemstones, almost all, just use this. You know how on your, what do they still call these remotes on the TV? You know how you turn it and it could get too dark? What do they call it? contrast knob. Contrast, okay, the contrast. You could turn it darker and it becomes too dark to really see the reflection from the screen. It's like that with gemstones too. Darker is usually better or mean higher price until they become too dark to really see the color. So a lot of times I see people moving towards blue sapphires that to me are a little too dark. Yes, concentration of color, but if I used to describe it in the TV days with the contrast knob, like people would understand it. I got to update it for today's tech and so forth. So,
It's more the richer the color green, not the darker the color green.
yeah.
The richer the green, the more green saturation, the saturation is more intense. You can have overly dark emeralds that sell for much less. They're dark. They're dark sapphires. The number of consumers who say the darker the blue, the better.
No.
The richer.
Like Princess Diana's blue is too dark to me. She picked it because it was big. She didn't know anything. She was 18. Yeah, she just picked it because it was big. So there's more nuance involved in there too, with like darker is better to a point. And then you also have to look at, like, sometimes they're terribly cut. Sometimes they're cut in such a way that just really is bringing out the beauty, or they're interesting. Sometimes their texture, sometimes it could be like, have you heard of cashmere sapphire? Okay, so cashmere sapphire has rutile in it, and it's really finely textured, finely disseminated, and in its best forms, it has this like blue velvet, and it's also with an electric blue, and God, I'm getting chills thinking about it. But what happens is that there's this tension between, oh, a soft velvet and electric blue, and like, oh, it pulls at you like it's a tension of equally opposed opposites. So that's a texture to me that works. But you know, most of the cashmere sapphires don't do that. They have like clumps of inclusions here or there that really don't do much.
One of my teachers once said, the closer, in any colored gemstone, the closer the color, if you take general colors in rainbow, the closer the color comes to the pure spectral color, and you can see on a proper paint store spectrum, the rarer the color.
But with green, it's so hard because it's a mixture of blue and yellow. That's why they don't photograph well either. Like if you look in, should I say auction catalogs, but it's often the case, or advertisements. So like the green, even when I'm photographing them for clients to show them things, they look terrible in the photos. It's really hard to get an accurate color of them. That's why look at that one in the case and start memorizing and you know, educating your eye.
And also the color of the light
Right there.
in which you're looking at any color.
Yeah.
Like outdoors in daylight, if a stone fluoresces and exposed to, you know, the stuff that burns you when you stay too long in the sun, the color can look better or worse depending upon the color of the fluorescence.
And the color looks different when you buy them in Asia, bringing them home. It's just with the latitude and.
Rubies are better in incandescent light because the yellow brightens the red.
Mhm.
So when looking at colored gemstones, we always suggest, and I've heard you suggest it too.
Uh-oh, what?
Look at the stone in different lighting environments before making a final decision. And where are you going to be wearing it all the time?
I walk around with it.
Or outdoors and indoors.
Well, and then you have to also consider how you want to set it, because that can affect the way it looks too. You had a question.
Oh, I was trying to comment that you're absolutely right about green being much harder to photograph than gemstones.
Are you a photographer?
Well, I've done some work on camera sensors from a technical standpoint, and there's a phenomenon that's referred to as like shared green.
What is it called?
Shared green. It's
Sheer green?
shared.
Oh, shared green. Okay.
Where the red and blue sensors both pick up some of the green from they'll both activate in response to a spectral green.
Mm-hmm.
Not as strongly as the actual green channel, but they will activate. And then depending on where that spectral green is along the green continuum, because it is a continuum of different mixes, right? You'll get a different green in effect, but it won't be reflected by how your eyes share green channel.
And then everybody has different eyes too. Like a man I used to work for when I started in the business, really prominent gem dealer, he's colorblind. Yeah. But he adapted. You know, you were talking about a spectrum. Spectrum is so interesting. you know, there's not just the Roy G. Biv, you know, the light spectral cut. It just grades in between. There's just so much nuance and ability. Like Roy G. Biv, when they were figuring out what to call the light spectrum and, you know, name the spectral colors and so forth, what they did is they just named it after the musical notes because they wanted to correspond. Like they thought that color and a certain note would have a relation to each other. So they, Roy G. Biv, is that 8? They have the same number of musical notes, you know, like A, B, C, D, G, you know, I forgot, it's been a while since piano, but you know what I mean. It's interesting to me, color and sound. I have synesthesia, which is like you hear sound with color. Yeah. Yes.
Looking at it, can you determine what cut would be best for, you know, we would do emerald, red, whatever?
Often we look at the weight recovery from the rough gem because I said citrine, we could do unusual cuts and so forth. That's true, but usually we do have to be concerned with how much weight we're going to lose. And then also we want to get and maximize the beauty, right? And certain gemstones, you can't just cut a gem in any shape you want and expect it to be beautiful. We work with the way light moves through the crystal. So emerald crystals are elongate, right? And the best way that we cut them was where the top of the emerald was cut parallel to the length. Other gemstones, like the blue tourmalines, the deep blue tourmalines, they need really steep sides on them because if we angle them in like we would for a round brilliant cut or some of the cushions, they bring in these unattractive gray tones if you look at it from face up. So we have to consider the gem and what the optics are going to do to the gem in addition to the, you know, economic aspects. Does that answer it? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
How often do you see like the depletion of a certain stone? It's mined and limited to places, and then the mine gets depleted. I mean, the purple pink diamond, just they don't exist anymore.
No. And didn't they close down in Argyle because really, yeah, because they couldn't really get anything more out of it. And they had a lot of finances too there, so they could go deeper underground. So if it's a gemstone that isn't as economic, you know, then it can't sell for tens of thousands of dollars. They can't put the money into building an infrastructure to go underground because the farther you go underground, the more expensive it is. It's usually for the surface or alluvial or not far from the surface. So that's what happens too. I don't know whether the Argyle diamond deposits are extinct. Like they do go extinct. But usually it's how far do they have to go in and is it going to be economic to bring it back out? Like some of them are just really, do you know what red beryl is just from Utah? Really rare, just little bits of it here or there, or the California state gem. Pardon me? No. Oh God, I've been playing with this, haven't I? Jeez, I've been fidgeting.
Has approved, and the FTC has approved, the use of the term red emerald for the red variety of beryl, because people know that emerald, which is beryl, is the same, it's rarer than the green variety, and it is only known to exist in one place in the world in a gem quality.
See, I don't like that they do that, but I think it's misleading. But
something that's valuable, suggestive value it doesn't have. The red beryl that's now being sold everywhere as red emerald is legally.
No, I don't see it sold everywhere. Do you?
In the United States.
Well, there's not much of it. There's not much of it. So it's sold everywhere. 10 points, you know.
The only rarer gem on planet Earth that's rarer than ruby is red beryl, also red emerald.
Then by that rationale, we would start on aquamarine.
No beryl, no,
Or morganite pink.
no. Well, you could call it pink beryl, or you could call it a beryl because it's beryl. Aquamarine is beryl, morganite is beryl, but they're named after their founders. And aquamarine is named because it looks like water. Okay, red beryl
They had history with them and some continuity to carry forward, and red beryl is a,
Most people know about from television and whatever, is golden
Oh,
beryl. And
yeah.
the only beryl that was called, and green beryl that doesn't have chrome. It's a darkish gray, brownish green. Green beryl and golden beryl, you use the word B-E-R-Y-L. They're cheap and calm. So to force the red variety to be called beryl suggests a common, cheap gem. Emerald suggests a very valuable gem.
which I think is misleading,
And red
but
variety is much, 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 much rarer than the green variety and found in only one location in the world. That's why the FTC and the AGTA.
I don't think the AGTA approves that, but I'll find out. I'll research that and see. Yeah. Where was I? The different colors of sapphires. I'm still thinking about your question. Okay, so the Holy Grail in sapphire is it's called a Padporasha sapphire. And Padporasha is a Sinhalese word, which is one of the languages in Sri Lanka for lotus flower, because it's supposed to be like the color of a lotus flower. But have you seen lotus flowers? There are a lot of different colors. And it's supposed to be a particular mixture of pink and orange, and not too pink and not too orange. And most of what you would see, most of what I see even anywhere, it's not really a Padporasha. They just call it that to want to get a higher price for it and so forth. So, Padporasha, Padparaddsha, Padporasha. Okay, so I happened to find one. This was just in February. Like, I'd been looking for this client for probably 12 years, 15 years. And so it's not that I couldn't find one in 12 or 15 years, like things have to be lined up, like her money and her attention and my attention, you know, it's like a variety of things. But this is what we found. And to me, it's like the Holy Grail. This is no heat on this Padporasha. This had heat from Madagascar, really fine though. No heat from Sri Lanka. I did the due diligence, and now we're going to be designing a ring for it. No, it's for my client, but I love her, so it can be kind of for me. Yeah. So this is my world of colored gemstones. It's dynamic, and it's just endlessly nuanced, and it's held my attention for over 30 years. And I built my life around them, because the more there is to learn, the more you learn, the more you realize you need to learn more. There's always something to dig into. I'm always interested in not just like the chemistry of the geology, but I'm interested in the culture and the politics and the hands it moves through, who they go to, what they look like at different times. I mean, this client with her, she started crying when I brought it to her. Yeah, she had had a dream like her mother, and she finally got some monetary gift from her mother. Her mother had passed, and it's like funny because I had that dream too with her. I mean, it's just like things all line up sometimes. It's so interesting. So every gem comes with its story, like all those hands that it goes through, and all of the pressure and heat and everything it endured and changed in underneath the earth to be able to come to you. So it comes with your story, its story, but then what do we do with them? I help clients be able to add them to their story in a piece of jewelry that then gets passed through time. And I'm going to show you some of the ways I do that too. My business, I attached a phrase to it, inherit the earth, because I think that we inherit the power and the beauty and the history of the earth by wearing her gems and metals. You know how I feel about the earth and the gems by now, and the time travel and the awe and the magnificence. And when we layer in our own story with them, worn through our life, these jewels become imbued with our essence, I think. They come imbued with our essence. Our loved ones see us wear them and so forth, and then we pass them on. And they carry all the stories, the gems and your story, and they pass them on to the people that come after you. And our jewelry collection becomes a message in a bottle. Like I do that with my daughter. When my daughter was a little baby, I took her to the photographer and I dressed her up, and I had pictures of her like sitting, and she'd be holding my jewelry and stuff, because I thought about how cool it would be for her children someday to see their mother as a baby holding their grandma's jewelry. And it creates more, you know, of a feeling of that connection through the jewel. Yeah, I didn't tell you about all that. Like this client, what she has around her neck is a crystal, it's called spodumene. Like the pink one is kunzite, we call it kunzite. And she went out with her sorority sisters to a mine tailings dump and she found that. So we made a pendant for her. And in that day, I was taking a group of collectors to the LA County Museum of Natural History. We took the train from San Diego. I had such a great day, and we got a private tour through them with their collection that they have there called Unearthed Beauty of mineral specimens. So she wanted to wear the mineral that day. So there are different ways that I do this with clients. There's different doors. It's like some collectors want to keep the value intact, so in the gem itself, so that the setting it's in is easily transferred. Others want to create a piece where the gem is the focal point, you know, but it's simple and virtuoso work with labor in it, but simple. And others come to me with a memory or a poem or something of their life that really we write it in stone in the jewel to wear. So let me show you these three different ways. So in thinking about the long-term value of something in wealth, with this client, she was interested in a few different gems. You've seen some of them in here, but we got her this pink sapphire, which was just under 10 carats, and it's an extraordinary gemstone. And she was, of course, concerned about the design, but I didn't put, my craftsmanship is there, but I didn't have to, stand on my head to be able to produce the ring and charge that kind of labor. Her daughter would have the ring someday, probably one of her daughters. And if they didn't like the setting, the value is in that gem. So it makes sense if she wanted to pull it out and be able to create something else. There's not like a lot of lost value. That's what it looks like for scale. So you could see, I think sometimes you can't tell from pictures what something looks like for scale. That's a pink sapphire from Madagascar. 9.57 carats, I think. And then like on the side view there, like I tried to make it, you know how Picasso drew that picture of like the horse with just a few lines? I thought, well, I could be Picasso. I just tried to make a squiggle like of one line that held the gem. I don't think I'm Picasso. Well, I guess you got to have confidence. Oh, what slide am I at now? Okay, there we go. So you've probably also heard of something like a design or art piece being praised as being simple. And they don't mean daft. They mean that the particular maker or designer has been able to distill the elemental essence of something so you could feel it, so you could see it, so you can grasp it. It's not obscured with all of these tricks sometimes jewelers will do, like, look what I can do. And it, you know, I think simple is better. That's at least, that's when people come to me. That's usually they would agree with that too. So this piece, this client loved a suite of all Afghani round tourmalines. So we set out making a necklace that was complicated to make, but that was an ode to the round shape or a circle. So if you could see from the side view, those are all circles, but some of them are bent, you know, and shaped in different ways. It's a circle every way. It was all hand fabricated out of palladium, which is a rare metal in the platinum series. It took 9 months to make. It was pretty extraordinary, but it's simple, right? You see the gem, and then it's really quite virtuoso what went into making it. It started with palladium ingots, you know, to pull them out and make it. And that won a big award, a Spectrum Award, first place a few years ago. And then Serendipity is a pretty, I guess we make our own luck, but it was pretty amazing. So it went from winning that award to, it got 3 minutes on the Oscars coverage on this woman who produces the Oscars. They had her running all around and talking, and that necklace was just glowing everywhere. It was much more coverage than if somebody was just wearing it on the red carpet and passing by. It was kind of thrilling. And then it didn't stop there. I got to go to there's only 2 palladium mines in the world. I went to one of them, which is in Montana. The client was investing in metals, so I got to go. And then down at the bottom, I wore that necklace. Now, because I'm a show off. But I wore that necklace, and like the palladium mine with all the money there, it's a strategic metal. It's not like these little gem mines I'm going to. They had huge trucks down there and elevators going up and down. It was pretty amazing. Now, sometimes a client will come to me wanting custom jewelry or bespoke jewelry, and there's ways that we could be able to tell her story that will leave clues behind to those that come behind her. And the jewel can also be very empowering to her. They might not come in really thinking of what they want or what to do. Most people don't really come in really know, maybe the first time, and then they realize we could do more than what they think, or do something that's more true to them than what they think. But there's something in life that I call blue pearl moments. Like, you know, those moments you're just going along and suddenly it's like God pulls back a curtain and you have the most amazing sense of joy or peace or insight or the connected, you're just like grooving. You've probably had those, right? And then they all end. Suddenly, boom, the curtain comes back. But you still are aware of that insight you got and that meaning and the knowing and the love. So I work with some clients to be able to reproduce those blue pearl moments within their jewelry so they could go back to it and visit it over and over, and their children beyond them can understand a bit about their life too. So this is client K who came to me, and she had these tanzanites. They were just set in some temporary studs. Actually, her son had cut them. Her son was a gem cutter. She wanted to do something great with them one day, and her mother and father had died. That's their rings, so there was a little bit of diamonds, and I thought, you know, that's include the family's diamonds within these two, even though, you know, they're not the Hope diamond, but there's something that means something. So in talking to her, people don't come in and say, this is my blue pearl moment, but you start talking, and I'm just so interested in people. And she described the way that she felt when she was in a hot air balloon over Tanzania in the morning, looking down, and at those giraffes and the way that they would just walk and they'd be reaching out and moving. And she felt such a tremendous expansive feeling. So I thought, well, that's interesting because that's in Tanzania and those gemstones are Tanzanite. They're from just that area. Maybe we could work that into something. So I thought about giraffes. And giraffes, you know, they have those long necks and they eat acacia leaves. That's what they eat. They're up really high. And the way they're able, acacia leaves have these thorns. So giraffes have these long, really nimble tongues, and they get around and move around the thorns and they get those leaves, and that's what they eat. So I thought, you know what? This is something. Let's try to capture her blue pearl moment by doing something that tells about the giraffes, but I don't want it to look like a safari story. Oh, I missed that. Did I miss that? Oh, a safari story. You know, like, you know, you don't want to go in like, you know, a safari story. It has to subtly be able to tell it. So we refined the concept. And on the back, I took her mother's diamonds from her ring. She one day was going to give these to one of her granddaughters. At the time, she had 2 granddaughters. Now I know she has 4. I'll tell you why I mention that. But it would be great to have an earring that has a gem cut by their dad, that has a diamond in it that's from their great-grandma, and is the blue pearl moment of their grandma. So I put their initials in the back, K and B. And that's what they look like. We have the actual acacia leaves. There's the diamonds from her mother's. And the way that I made them, you see the stem and top, it helps being able to balance them on the ear. But now that she has 4 granddaughters, if she wanted to, they could be adapted as a veil for a pendant. You know, there's something that could be done there. So it's a really kind of the deepest level I work, being able to tell their story, to put it in there. And she feels that every time she puts them on. It takes her back to her blue pearl moment. This is what they look like on. So you get an idea. Actually, she was my former mother-in-law, and she still came to me for jewelry. But I keep thinking that dog's a dog, like we have an Irish wolfhound in here. So this client was so upset. She was probably in her late 40s, early 50s then, but she had dropped this heirloom ring in the garbage disposal while she was in college. God knows what she was doing when she did that. But it had diamonds in it from her great-grandma's and her grandma's. It was a real ring with a story. And, her dad wanted to be able to help her to remake it or repair it or restore it somehow. So she started telling me then about her family and where they all met. And I thought, I don't think we could replicate this exactly. We got to make an ode to it that tells more of the story than that adds in her and the other people of her family and build on that to create a new heirloom. So as she told me about her family, her great-grandmothers had lived in Manhattan in 1880, and they had both come out to San Francisco, and that's where their families met. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because the Brooklyn Bridge was a really big deal in 1880. It was one of the, the engineering marvels of the world. They would have definitely walked over the Brooklyn Bridge. And then the San Francisco, the Golden Gate is so iconic of it. And what do bridges do? They are connectors, they bridge the generations. We're bridging the continent. We're bridging the family and connecting the family. So I thought, there's something there to be able to work into the ring. So I took the elements of both bridges and I worked them in subtly. Now this is on the shank. Can you guys see that? Okay, that's the Brooklyn Bridge. And then you see this part, swoop, swoop, of the Golden Gate. So I worked those elements in there. And then from the top, so one of the great-grandma's diamonds that was remaining, we moved that to the side. And we got some bigger old diamonds to put in the middle, and she readily agreed because she thought, oh, bigger's better, great. And then inside it, it has a feeling of oldness with the old cut diamonds, and it has that same shape and style, but it's different. And then inside, I inscribed the initials of both great-grandmas, her grandma, hers, and then I left space for those that would come after her in the ring. So that's the ring that bridges the family and the connectors. I've lost track of her. I'd like to see what's happened. Now, anybody who's in the jewelry business have had people bring them stuff like this and try to figure out what to do with them. And actually, I like that because you can be really creative with it. I lay it all on a white towel, and some of it was repaired, some of it was okay as it is, and others we repurposed. So this particular client, she was a widow, and her late husband had given her, it was a diamond ring, and that was in a ring too. The emerald was in a ring. And she wanted to remake them. We were talking separate rings at that point. It kind of went back and forth a while, but she wanted to remake them for her new life and something that she'd wear then. And in talking to her, their favorite song was called The Bramble and the Rose. They grow together, they're entwined. It's a story about everlasting love. And of course, we talked about a lot of things, but that kind of stuck to me. And she's a very creative person, and we'd done projects before, so she had the trust with the project and so forth. So I thought, how could we work that into a jewel that's with the emerald and the diamond, and it's a bramble and the rose? And so I played around with concepts where there'd be 3 different rings, and the shapes would kind of interlock, and there'd be like a point. As you know from the tanzanite, I don't want the safari look with it. I didn't want this to look exactly like a bramble, but it's got to have the feeling of it. And she would be able then to mix them and wear them in different combinations. So this demonstrates real well too, that these sketches aren't exact, right? They're concepts. But if somebody can be calm and let us be able to let the grace flow through our hands to develop something and let it unfold as it's unfolding. It won't be a freaky surprise at the end, but unfold. So things work out in the best, most beautiful way, not like, well, this is what you wanted, here you have it. You gotta, if you let artisans do their work, it's amazing, creative, skilled artisans, what will come out of it. So we started carving 3, I spoiled it, didn't I? 3 separate rings out of 1 piece of wax. And we can't use CAD for this. It had to be hand carved with the organic aspect with it. So this is what it looks like it was done. There was, rose gold, white gold, and yellow gold. And they have a feeling with, like the spikes. Here's what, she can wear them in different combinations. And sometimes she wears one of them alone. Sometimes she'll wear it with her wedding ring in the middle. She does lots of different combinations with it. But that's like the bramble and the rose, and it's their life. And her relationship with her husband, even though he's still passed, is still evolving, right? And it's represented in these beautiful rings. All this is done long distance. Like this one, not all this stuff that I've done, it's long distance. It's amazing. I'm sorry, you had a question? Yes. Ah! Okay, so this emerald, you could see the inclusions in it, right? So there's inclusions in it, but it's got pretty color. It's a little bit dark, but it has feeling in it for her. It's something that she and her husband got together. But yes, I have a little emerald. A zipper? That's funny. It was supposed to be a little bit floral. Like the head of a, you gotta, it is cool. Like I'm gonna do one, I think now, and make the points round for that podparasha and petals of all different shapes around the corners of it. Like, how asters have a what? True. Huh. I'm gonna fall in love with my stuff here. So I showed you the combinations, but they're intimate and she lives in them. I'm losing track with okay, there we go. So we talked about, yes, did you have a question? Thank you. We work, that's what we're known for. But I want a client to be able to put it on and love the way that it feels. Not just, it's slow jewelry. It's not just, we can have this for you in 3 weeks, but it's always working on really cool projects. Thank you. Oh, so we talked about blue pearl moments. This is blue eyes moment. We had an unusual parcel of Afghani rough tourmaline. It was unusual. And I was visiting with a client and I noticed that it was the same color as her daughter's eyes, Kate's eyes. So the client said, I'll take them all, which kind of surprised me, but she's very decisive. So we set about faceting them. And so one of the first pieces was this earring with 3 different pieces, but you could see that's Kate's eyes. And we went through other pieces, we had bracelets and necklaces and so on and so forth. So we had 1 piece left, and that was going to be the ring. And the question is, what are we going to do for that? And we sit on things sometimes and we get the right feeling. It's not like, hey, let's just put 2 trillion diamonds on the side and go. It's the feeling for it and so forth with the meaning. So there was that last piece, and the family, the extended family, the client, her husband, her 2 children, and her parents were going to Chile. And the grandpa was Chilean. And so they went on a big family trip to Chile, and then we worked it into this really transformational experience she had into the jewel. So they were down there in Patagonia, and this is the client and her kids. There's a glacial lake, and it's very rough and beautiful out there and so forth. And I thought, those glacial lakes are the color of the Kate's eyes tourmaline. Maybe there's something there, but I just waited. And what happened is that there at the end of the earth in the Torres de Paine National Park of Chile, her father, the grandfather, had a massive heart attack, massive. And somehow he had an 11-hour car ride to get to a primitive hospital out in the middle of nowhere, and he's barely stabilized. And then they had to airlift him into Santiago, and he had to stay there for a few weeks too. But it was a harrowing trip for the whole family. Is he going to survive, and is he going to survive okay? And the family all banded together. This is the same client as the fire ring, the spessartite, with what they lost in the fire and what they gained. So he eventually recovered, but the family learned a lot about unity and love and faith and what they treasured while they were in Chile. So I worked with the entire family to be able to memorialize the ring. Now, this family's out in San Diego too. I'm in North Carolina. But it started with the granite spires. Well, that's what's setting the stone. And it depends on where you look and how you look, but we got the same shapes. And I put it in rose gold because, do you know what alpenglow is when the sun is beginning to set, the way it turns the granite kind of pink in the afternoon? So we did that. And then in the center, there's the Kate's Eyes tourmaline, like the glacial lakes. And then this is actually the glacier. And glaciers are they're not always all white. They push forward and grind the rock and create a lot of debris and are irregular. So what I did was the way that we textured it, see all that texture? It's because I made it out of a sheet of wax. I went out there for that. And I got a hair dryer, so I melted the surface a little bit. And each family member made that matte texture by putting fingerprints all over it, like embedding fingerprints in the whole thing, all on top of each other. It's like a time capsule of this. You can see her dad with his new heart bracelet after the attack. So the grandparents, the kids, the parent, all of them are in there in the Torres de Paine ring. That's what it looks like finished. That won an award too. Oh, this is the gem I told you about earlier, the blue sapphire. It came out of the ground in Ratnapura, Sri Lanka. It's 500 million years old. And this woman wears it, of course, in her ring. And let me tell you how we came up for it. We had been looking for a star sapphire for her for some time. And this star, by the way, is about 20 carats. And 20 carats is it's a hard size to find, and it's a really great size because bigger than that, it becomes there's less limited uses for it in jewelry. It becomes a little big, and smaller than that, not as rare. And so this guy wanted something rare and so forth. And as we talked about, the routine heating of sapphires nowadays melts out the rutile, which also forms a star. So it's a real rarity in the gem world. Now this client is crazy in love with his wife, like crazy in love with her. So I suggested, and he's always giving her things, that it has a star, right? So the moon and the stars, he's gonna bring her the moon and the stars, and even that is not enough. And so we set it with half moon diamonds on the side. But also, I mean, they just really love each other and their family and so forth. I thought, what can we do? And I made it, you see, star sapphires are often really deep on the bottom to be able to strengthen the star. So I turned that into a plus. And you see this part where it's set with the arches? I thought, let's make their own temple to love and family. So it's not the classic Parthenon with square windows, Hallie, is that what it is? But it's arched and it circles around the whole sapphire. So that ring is their temple to their love, their relationship, and what they've created in the family. And then he's gonna bring her the moon and the stars. So that's a classic shape, a classic look. It's not like the Torres de Paine or the fireball ring and stuff like that, which are different. So this works into a classic shape and form, but still has something of their life and family in it. You know, I think it's a gift from my mother, who is very good with people and stories and genealogy and so forth. I just love people and their stories and hearing their stories, and like the ideas just get in my mind, the way they start coming out, and it's so cool to be able to put them in jewelry.
How rare are the half-moon diamonds?
Pardon me?
How rare are half-moon diamonds?
You can find half-moon diamonds. I forget the size of these. Maybe they were, so it was 20 carats. I'm guessing maybe 2 carats each. But what's hard about them is finding them, as we say, that their makes are good, that the cut is like fully brilliant, or as brilliant as it can be. So you can find half moons. You could find out, they call them fancy shapes. I used to think, oh, you got to wear them fancy. No, it just means it's not round. It's like a fancy shape. You know, kite shapes, trapezoids, epaulet shapes. You could do things with interesting shaped diamonds just on each side of a center stone that can be really unusual and pretty. What do I got up here? So each person's life, this gets back to the genealogy, but I think of it, there's just so many volumes and stories in each of our lives. I think of the Library of Alexandria and how it burned and we lost all that knowledge. And when somebody goes, the book of their life experiences goes with them too. But some of it can remain. We can write our lives with our rich stories and our gems and jewels. We write it in stone. When we want to remember something, we write it in stone, don't we? So besides the wonder of the gems, I work with the wonder of marking life's moments with something that has deep meaning and being able to pass it on so the meaning and the jewel endures too. Thank you. I was going to show you, thank you very much. I made a little book that explains the gem economics. It's a PDF. If you want a copy, if you need something like that, you could do that, or just